for us has been really a challenge to become a smart city, to start in the beginning take the decision to really want to do it. San Miguel de Allende is a small town, very old, 475 years last year. And we have a population of 173,000 people. And our land, it's big, it's a big space. So 50 and 50%, let's say, 50% lives in the urban area and the other 50% in the rural communities. We have more than 500 rural communities. So it's really spread, and the challenge to give services and to bring services to all the community, it's hard. So we are a very, very successful lately touristic destination in Mexico. We have been awarded by Travel and Leisure, by Condé Nast, by a lot of magazines that Reader's Choice award us to name it the best city in the world, the best destination in Latin America, the best destination, to best small city destination also, to have the best hotels in Mexico and in Latin America. And this has been a great moment because we are attracting a lot of people. We used to have host a year, 1.2 million 2 years ago. And this last year we closed with a little more than 2 million of visitors, which has been a huge challenge and bringing a lot of problem because the traffic, because mobility. San Miguel, as I told you, it's a very old town, UNESCO heritage city, so we have a lot of strain
on the size of the city,
disposiciones,
right?
regulations in order to keep the architecture and the infrastructure. So we are not allowed to do a lot of things in the city. So that's why the mobility, for example, became a really huge problem, and it's not that comfortable when we have, in a long weekend, for example, more than 16,000 vehicles coming from out of the city and looking for a place and to move around downtown and bringing a lot of problems to everybody.
And I want to ask Dawn, from your perspective, what could be those initial quick wins, sort of say, that San Miguel de Allende can start with?
Yes, it's always helpful to have a roadmap, but before you can even arrive at having a roadmap, let's talk about the mobility, for instance. So as she pointed out, there's been a huge surge in the popularity of visitors, basically doubling the number of visitors coming to their town.
Same.
The problem is they're coming in their automobiles.
Yes.
And when they come in their automobiles, they need a place to park. And when you're a World Heritage Site and you have these beautiful town squares, cobbled town squares and everything, there just isn't a lot of parking. Whereas Las Vegas, it's sort of been the opposite. Mm-hmm. All those big casinos built huge parking garages. For years and years and years, parking was absolutely free. That was one of the real perks of Las Vegas, along with cheap buffets and cheap drinks and everything, was that you could drive from Southern California, wherever you were coming from, and you could park for free, and you could just drive around town and everything. Well, even our city started feeling the strain because with the surge in the number of visitors, we could not accommodate all the lifts that people, that basically being taken from one place to another with our existing taxi cab numbers. So Uber and Lyft, by taking the load off of them, we've enabled people to come and still have a good time, get where they want to be, without us needlessly hurting our taxi cab authority or hurting the shared ride service providers. And as a result, and this is a very good thing, the number of people coming to Las Vegas by car has gone down. The trend has been downward. So as far as the strategy, before you even get to a roadmap, the first thing you need to do is you need to inventory all of your assets. You need to understand what you already have. And that includes the data that you already are collecting. And then you need to, in the case of the township, need to inventory the emerging mobility services. As you mentioned, there's several services that are all competing for the peso or for the people to utilize. So you need to inventory and understand who's operating in your space. Once you understand that, you're inventorying your assets and all the assets of these mobility services, then you need to really sit down and talk with them to understand their approach, to understand if their approach aligns with your culture. Does their culture match your culture? And where it doesn't match, you need to understand why, and you need to negotiate to either bring them over to your side or to acquiesce some bit and move over to their side. So once you understand their approach and they understand your approach, it's all about now setting guiding principles not only for your organization, but for the organizations that you're doing business with. And from that, you can establish a framework for developing policies and programs that are basically going to be the rule of law for the people that are operating in your area. So once you've established that framework, which you have to, and that I want to emphasize this, you have to do this as a result of stakeholder engagement. You need to bring people in, you need to talk to them, you need to be chatting with them all the time on social media. City of Las Vegas, we have 625,000 residents. We have nearly 300,000 people that follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Those people, we responded to them 90,000 times last year, same day, in some cases the same hour, to their questions, their complaints. We reached out to them, and so they really felt the connection with the city in whatever platform they preferred. So leveraging social media as well as other means, when you have that stakeholder engagement so that everybody's got buy-in, everybody's understanding, then you can begin evaluating the services and the technology types to pick and choose the ones that are going to work best to help you achieve your goals. And if there's gaps in your knowledge or gaps in the knowledge of the service providers, or if there's areas for improvement, that's what your roadmap is going to address. It's going to fill in those gaps, and it's going to close those bridges.
And I'm glad to hear your advice about what we should do. And we have been doing some steps on that sense. We create the Mobility Council for the city, and it's a round table where practically the 70% is represented by citizens and chambers and associations, and the 30% from authorities from the city and from the state also. And we were working about to make a census of what we have. We know now that we have parking spaces free or on the road, on the streets, a little more than 3,000. And that these spaces are practically 70% of the time occupied. So there are no rotation because they are free. So this it's also reducing the offer of the spaces. So in that term, we have taken the decision to start creating outside parking lots on the periphery, and we are building to have around 10,000 spaces out of downtown. Above of that, we are having this like auditorium where you are going to be able to set an application that what we want and we really is what we envision is to have just one register, just one login to have the access to all the different applications, to get information, to make reservations, to hire any kind of service, to have information also about historical places, because as Don was mentioned, like a heritage city, we cannot, for example, make big signs or occupy the road or put it right beside of the building, anything that can put something out of what used to be, yes, of the context. So we are starting to make all this information, put it in a website, and deliver by the notifications with beacons to the mobile phone, so make the people know when they walk outside of a building, of an old construction who has inside a lot of business and restaurants and whatever, what do we have inside, which is also part of the application and the system that we are hiring in terms of tourism, because we have to give this, to cover these two markets, no? Our citizens, but also the visitors, and give the service to make a comfortable living for everybody.
If you only remember one thing about what I have to say today, it's what I'm going to say right now. Civic engagement is not a project, right? It doesn't follow election cycles, or it shouldn't follow election cycles. It doesn't have a beginning point and an end point. Civic engagement is 24/7. You can never let your foot off the gas when it comes to civic engagement. And the reason why, it's the basis for democracy. Because if we don't engage everyone on either side of the digital divide, where they are in the socioeconomic strata, what class they are, whether they're a resident or a visitor, everyone needs to be engaged equally, and they need to feel that they're a participant in helping guide the city in what it's going to be. Yes, the City Readiness Hub is a wonderful opportunity for the city of Las Vegas to mentor San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. And I love the fact that they paired us up, not because we're very similar, but because we're very different. That fact that two representatives can sit together in a conversational tone, talk about how they are alike, how they are different, but then how both of them could achieve their own goals based on learning from the other what they've done, I think is a fantastic opportunity.
Really, this has completely full our expectation, and also to give us more confidence in what we are doing, and to be part of all this new movement, this club that has a lot of experience, ideas, challenge, and it's working day by day with this new way to run a city, and I feel just lucky.
Now you have a really hard job. How much do you think you learned in that 1 hour?
Wow, like 4 months.
That's a lot. So we got four months of work done in 1 hour.
Yes, yes. You know, that is the best. I think we all learn more if we listen and be sharing to somebody who has a successful or not successful even experience doing something. It's the fast track way to really learn.